I am deeply grateful and honored to have all of you here this evening, and more honored because of the fact that so many others wanted to be with us and we simply couldn't accommodate them in this ballroom. But numbers do not always tell the true story. Yet tonight I'm convinced that they at least indicate some truth. It has been an extraordinary year for Acton, of enterprises launched, enterprises brought together, brought into harbor, of new relationships and burgeoning networks and fresh creations and commendations. I wish I could regale you with each and every one of them, but we wouldn't have time. I suppose I should at least begin with some of the latter way of bringing inside, outside witnesses. Just this year, the Think Tanks and Civil Society program at the University of Pennsylvania ranked the Acton Institute number 12 in the world of the top 30 social policy think tanks in the whole world. As Judge Scoville's already indicated, our social media outreach has taken off. And I'm astounded at the presence of the Institute in the social media. Now, most of you are like me, I suspect, and you're asking yourselves, what is social media? Ask your kids. Well, you know it. But let me tell you that the future of the intellectual debate is going to be dealt with and debated out on handheld devices like iPhones, iPads, today the mini iPad, on computers and the like, through Facebook and Twitter, don't ask. No, really, because next to the Blessed Trinity itself, it is the greatest mystery in the universe to me. And this year brings to release not just the curriculum that you have on your table, Poverty Cure, but even another one that we didn't have time to suitably tell you about. And if you ever needed any evidence of the miraculous intervention in human affairs, I finally finished my book. And it was published 5 months ago by Regnery. And that book has been inside me since the beginning of Acton. When somebody asked me how long it took me to write it, I said about 22 years. And point of fact, it took about 3 months because I had to crank it out. And I'm told that it's just sold out of its print run, so they're going to have to do another print run for Christmas. And that's not the last of the Acton product in terms of trade press books, because in just a few weeks, Encounter Books will release Sam Gregg's first major trade press book about the United States falling in danger of becoming like Western Europe. You remember when it used to be Eastern Europe that we were afraid of becoming like? Now it's Western Europe. And I tell you, Sam is the epitome of what Chris and I say. We hire people who are smarter than we are, which proves that we are smarter than they are. Now, with Sam around Acton Institute, I assure you we will never become soft. I could go on, but I have a sense that many of you are worried. There is a sense of tension and uncertainty in our society today that has worked together providentially enough to put the wind at our backs at this historic moment. When I see the work publicly and privately that the Acton Institute is doing, and let me assure you that a good portion of what we do you never hear about because we do it very discreetly and can't advertise it. But what we are doing is dramatically reshaping the moral ecosystem on the critical question of the nature of human liberty, both socially and theologically, and I'm inspired and awestruck. I am particularly inspired when I see what's happening at that corner on Fulton with the new Acton building, which will give us a foundation to launch even further. What we are seeing now is the maturation of the mission of the Acton Institute, and I am grateful to Almighty God to have lived to see this. Now, with all due respect to the elected officials who are with us this evening, and who probably know the truth of what I'm about to say, I feel that in this political season, it is important for us to pause and reflect for a moment or two on the role of government and the political class in each of our lives. To see what it has assumed, the great importance that it has taken in our lives, indeed, much too much of a great importance. You may already know that one legend identifies the etymology of the term lobbying as originating in the lobby of the Willard Hotel in Washington, D.C., which still exists right across from the White House, where President Ulysses S. Grant would encounter the political wheelers and dealers right in that lobby that's still there, who frequented the lobby of the hotel in order to access him to persuade them to make political decisions that was in their favor by buying him drinks and the like. Now, many see lobbying as a fundamental problem in our political culture today. But I disagree. It is not the fundamental problem. It is rather a symptom of the fundamental problem. People don't attempt to influence your favor, if you're not in a position to have favors to bestow on them. Were we to shrink the size, the power, and yes, the influence and the scope of government itself, lobbying would automatically become more thin and more benign. I have recently taken note of the great deal of frustration on the part of many good people that seems to come to a head around election time. I can't tell you how many good people I have had tell me in my pastoral capacity of their great anxiety, almost their despair that they feel over the political mood of our nation, how exhausted they feel at watching news reports and debates and hearing the campaigns and receiving the solicitations and all of the like, how fearful they are of the future. It seems to me that we appear to have forgotten, or at least need to realize anew, that the solution to this frustration is not and never has been success in any given election. It may surprise some to learn that the kingdom of God is not and will not be brought about by politics. Now, I do not, of course, say that politics are unimportant. I am certain that you in this room will be sure to vote next week if you haven't already voted. If you believe that this is or can be of ultimate importance, then I fear that you have committed heresy, because you concede the whole point to those who see the state as the be-all and end-all of human society. If you think the government can be brought about by an election, you have conceded the point to those who see the government as of paramount importance. What we need to do is to diminish the assumptions about what the role of government is in the first place. I do not say by this that partisan politics has no place whatsoever, even if a life of public service may be a worthy vocation or calling. But to the extent that we diminish our assumptions about the role of government as such, then we move the whole problem in the right direction. the political process under a robust and ever-enlarging government incentivizes politicians and bureaucrats to simply wait to see what direction the wind will blow so that they can then curry their constituencies by offering them favors. The mission of the Acton Institute has never been political. It is rather to give direction to the wind in the first place. The sad truth is that it will take much more than one election to solve what ails us. And what will solve the problem will never be an election. The confusion that ails us in our republic runs very deep. Much of that confusion can be captured in a nutshell by pointing to that curious term, social justice. The problem is that so often today when people speak of social justice, they are really trying to speak into the language of a kind of socialist justice. And then we have entered into an alternative universe from the actual one we live in. In this other world that is collectivism, those who legitimately succeed by reason of the risk and investment they pour into their enterprises, who have themselves received the fruits of business that serves the wants and the needs of a community, of customers in free exchange, those entrepreneurs have committed an injustice in that mentality that must be remedied, and remedied speedily by the hand of the state, in particular the redistributionist hand of the state. And what is this socialist justice, or in what politer company we simply call the mixed economy? This most enlightened form of justice demands that the entrepreneur or the physician or the CEO be deprived of that which he has earned. He should be deprived of that which he or she receives justly. And that's precisely what socialism is. It is not an investment in the community. It is the deprivation of the community's progress. This socialist pseudoscience is not sharing what you have with those in need, as they did in the Acts of the Apostles. That's what's called charity. It is rather having what you own having taken from you and given to someone else. And I just fail to see how that constitutes virtue. Who is made more virtuous by the act of coercive redistribution? The one who has had his property confiscated from him? The person who's doing the redistribution? The one receiving it? I just don't see the logic of that. The term justice, mind you, is one of those many good words that have been misused or co-opted to the detriment of a culture of ordered liberty. We don't solve this problem by rejecting the phrase social justice. What we need to do is re-embrace it, re-own it. But I'm frustrated that we've lost so many words. Here's a list of some of our gravest losses. Listen to this list and see if you haven't sensed that they have been tweaked. Progressive, social market, social entrepreneur, social gospel, equality, gay, marriage, marriage equality, fairness, sustainability, differently abled, cooperation, investment, social commitment, the common good, liberal or liberalism, pluralism, tolerance, diversity, and yes, even the word awesome, since surely in the Leviathan state and the modern West has waxed in direct proportion to our sense of what is truly awesome, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, who has been diminished. Now, I must confess to you that I want my words back. In fact, the words that I want... The one word that I want back most of all is the word Madonna. Now, why all this talk of words, of the decline of language when our national health seems to hang in the balance over a looming national election? Because as I said at the beginning, that which ails our republic runs far deeper than any election. I pray to God that many lovers of human dignity and the free and the virtuous society find their way to office in the coming political season. But more than that, I pray that the people of this nation will again learn the meaning of the words freedom and justice, of that 236-year-old declaration that all men are created equal, meaning that they are endowed by their Creator, not their capital, not their parliaments, not their politicians or bureaucrats, and not their community organizer, but that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which is the right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to pursue happiness. Absolutely. Vote on November 6th, but then go home and pray. Pray for a revival and continue with us in the work of cultural renewal. I wish I could tell you tonight that I knew what that November day will bring. It may bring encouraging news. It may bring news that many of us may fear for the future of our country, but I want to encourage you, just as your presence here this evening has encouraged me. I could speak of other challenges that our nation has faced and overcome: slavery, endemic racism, great and bloody wars, a progressive era a full century ago that drove the top income tax bracket to 90%, and that saw a eugenics movement take root right here in this country, one that many have already forgotten about. Liberty in this nation has faced grave threats before, and indeed, as we will hear in a few moments, throughout the world. So let us not give in to a narrative of inevitable decline. The Marxists are those who embrace the idea of historical determinism, not us. Ours rather is a vision of hope, real hope, of a future, of freedom for excellence, the liberty of human flourishing, and the freedom, as Lord Acton observed, to do what we ought, not merely what we want. Thank you very much. Thank you.